Morning everybody, welcome. Oh, hello James, welcome. Okay, I'm not sure how many we've got, but I think we might start with a lying down. I think we could probably manage that. Is there, yeah. So if you'd like to find your sort of, if you want to just stagger your mats a little bit so that we can start with a body scan lying down. Let's have everybody's heads towards the door. So heads on the right. Hello, come in, welcome. Great. And whilst you're sort of arranging yourself, if you just want to make sure that your phones are completely switched off, because even vibrate is going to be embarrassing when it's really quiet. Yeah. So ideally we want to, to be lying with a little narrow cushion behind your head, not a big fat one, and with your knees bent up. You might want to just slip the heels of your socks off so that you can stick your feet to the floor if that's not too gross a thought. Yeah, you got enough room there, Annabelle? Yeah? You can find room. Yeah, lovely. Okay. So what about team? Have you got enough room? Yeah. There's a space down here at the front, Claudio, if you want to. I'm a bit worried if we have any latecomers. I don't know where they're going to go. Could you leave a space by the door in case any latecomers come through, Mitch? And there's a space here. Okay, great. Yeah. So while everybody's getting themselves... Oh, bless you, you've got no mat. Do you want one of these? You all right? You sure? Oh, use one there. Yeah. So if you want to lie yourselves down in the shrine room, I'm just going to say hello to YouTube. Hi, everybody at home and out there in YouTube land. Welcome to Wednesday night at the London Buddhist Centre. My name is Suvarnajyoti. Yeah, we're going to be exploring my personal take on the Metta Bhavana this evening, my current sort of working ground, and hopefully that will be something that is, helpful for you. So, but we're just going to start with a bit of an arrival. So, just allowing yourself to really relax onto the floor or onto the chair if you're sitting upright. Just really giving yourself permission to be fully here. Hello, come in, welcome, do join us. Letting your mind catch up with your body. Your body is physically here, but chances are that your mind might be not quite fully with us yet. Might be caught up in the day, or in the journey, or in the conversation you've just been having. And maybe giving yourself a couple of longer out breaths, like a couple of big sighs. And with each one, really giving yourself permission to let the earth hold you. And every time your mind wanders off somewhere or pops off somewhere, that's fine. Just gently smoothing and soothing it down and into the body. And particularly into the parts of the body that are in contact with the ground. Seeing if you can really let yourself feel connected onto the ground and beneath it down into the earth. Noticing the quality of that energetic connection. Softening the face. Nobody's looking at you just now. So really invite you to just completely let your face go soft. You don't have to be wearing the face that you wear to face the world with. Not right now. Relaxing the brow. Softening the eyes in the sockets. Letting the cheeks and the jaw go slack. And if you're finding that you're using any sort of energy to kind of prop your legs up, as it were, let the knees fall in towards each other so that they hold each other up, so that you're not gripping in the thighs. Having your feet a bit wider than hips width. And then the knees can fall inwards. So softening those thigh muscles. Softening the hands. And relaxing the belly. Seeing if you can just let it rise and fall. Softening the shoulders. Seeing if you can imagine them just sinking deep into the floor, as if you were on warm sand. we're just going to pay a little bit of attention to a few different parts of the body, just a bit of appreciative awareness. And we're going to start with the legs and feet. So inviting your awareness into the legs and feet. Noticing the textures and temperatures of all the different sensations there. And now letting your awareness move up and across your back. So the whole of the back, right from the very bottom of your tailbone, all the way up to the base of the skull, and all the way across from one side to the other. Noticing the experience of where your weight bearing, so there'll be strong sensations where your weight bearing, or maybe more subtle ones in other parts of your back that are maybe not totally flat on the mat. Maybe it's possible to feel the changing sensations of the breath as the back expands and presses more into the mat and then releases. And now taking your awareness up through your neck and throat and into the whole area of your head. So this is your physical head, not your thoughts, but your actual physical experience. The weight of the head on the cushion. The sensations of your scalp and your ears. The gentle touch of the air on your skin. And now expanding your awareness to include your whole body. Having a sense of the space that you occupy, your place on the earth right now, under the sky. So seeing if you can really fully embody that space, especially if you've spent all day with your eyes glued to screens. See if you can really let yourself relish coming into the fullness of your physical experience just now. Notice the subtle, gentle pleasure of what it feels like to be alive in this moment. To be you and to be alive in this moment. That's what this feels like. Imagining breathing in and out of every pore of your body. And now seeing if you can hold that broad body awareness, but just gently let the breath come to the foreground of your awareness. So you're kind of gathering a soft spotlight on the breath. And then cradled within the breath is the heart center. Your physical heart in the center of your chest, but also the much more mysterious, poetic, emotional heart, the heart of your humanity. So seeing if you can tune into the heart center, the subtle, subtle sensations there. Or maybe they're not so subtle. Just noticing what's going on there just now. So for the next few minutes until I ring the bell, just keep bringing your awareness back to the heart, which is massaged by the breath, which is held by your whole body. you can stay connected with yourself and just in your own time, gently coming upright. If you want to roll over onto one side and then come up that way, just sit comfortably, because I'm going to say a few things and then we're going to do our sitting practice. So don't need to all suddenly rush. Let's turn this up a bit. Yeah. So making sure, just getting anything now that you might need, because I always say I'm going to try not to say too much, and then I always do, but anyway, I'm going to try not to say too much, and then we'll go straight into a practice. So if you think you might want some extra cushions, anything like that, please do feel free to get up now and get those, or ask someone to pass them across. Okay, so hopefully we all feel a little bit more here now. So I am. I think this evening is the last in our series of personal reflections on the meditation practices. So those of you that have been here will know various of us have been taking it in turns to kind of talk a bit about our current personal relationship with the mindfulness breathing or the metta bhavana. And so tonight I'm going to be talking about my current working ground, what's currently sort of captured my imagination about how to work in the metta bhavana. I think a lot of people, I often hear that people find the metta bhavana trickier than the mindfulness of breathing. Is that, does anybody find that? I can see a couple of nods. I've actually always really liked the metta bhavana, because I really like the creativity that's possible within the metta bhavana. But I do think that particularly as modern city dwellers, which I imagine everybody here in the room probably live in London or not very far from London, or they wouldn't have made it here tonight. Obviously, people on YouTube, you may not be city dwellers, but I think for modern people, and particularly for city dwellers, I do think that being in contact with metta is quite a challenge. In a sense, to sort of cope with city life, we sort of we kind of hold ourselves, don't we? We kind of sort of permanently slightly clenched and tightened against this bombardment of all these, thousands, millions of other human beings and other beings, and advertising and traffic and noise, and it's sort of almost like a self-protective thing that we have to sort of slightly tense against it. It seems to happen quite naturally. And along with that goes a certain sort of defendedness and maybe a certain sort of cynicism about human beings. I certainly really notice the difference just in the way that people are with each other. If I go out into the countryside and you sort of pass people in the street and that sort of thing. I think there's a real pressure for us in the city to be sort of a little bit cool and a little bit cynical, and we don't want to be too sort of gullible or something, and that goes with this slightly tense, slightly clenched defendedness. And this, I was really thinking about this because I've just come back from a weekend retreat at Vidrasana, our wonderful retreat centre in Suffolk, which probably many of you've been to, and Claudia was on the retreat, and Seb was on the retreat, James was on the retreat. So a few people here tonight that were there. Is there anyone else? No, I don't want to forget anyone. No, yeah, that was it. And And when we rocked up at the beginning, the team arrived a couple of hours before the retreatants, and we rocked up there in the LBC car, and we all piled out the car. We'd all been sardined into this car, and we sort of piled out when we got there. And it's in the middle of the Suffolk countryside, so it's very, very flat landscape, with huge skies, and of course trees everywhere, and fields, and beautiful grounds. And as soon as I got out the car, it was just like I could sort of feel myself sort of psychically getting bigger. Like I just was like, felt like there was space. There was sort of space for my psyche and everybody else's psyches too. And there was this sort of relaxation, like a big out breath. And it was just like, it just felt like a completely different way of being. Even just stepping out of the car, we hadn't even started the retreat yet. And I was really struck by that. I think we talked a bit about that. I can't remember, looking at the guys that were on the team. We said, oh, wow, it's so lovely just to be here. And I was really struck with thinking, well, there's no actual reason why I couldn't feel that way in my normal London life, when I'm on the Central Line at rush hour or something like that. But somehow it feels quite hard to imagine, doesn't it? So what I'm going to encourage us to really explore in the first practice today is coming at the Metta Bhavana from a place of expansiveness and relaxation. So I'll kind of slightly lead us through it. We'll do the normal 5 stages, but I'm really going to invite you to sort of, what can I say? Yeah, I've kind of got this image of imagine you're reclining back on one of those really fancy deck chairs, with the sort of, with a lovely sort of fancy cushion. And you've got the table next to you and the cocktail or the mocktail next to you, and the sun's there and it's gorgeous, and you're just reclining back into the Metta Bhavana. So it's relaxed and spacious. I think sometimes people can sort of get a bit sort of like, right, Metta Bhavana, it's like the kind of constipation model of Metta Bhavana. Come on, get that Metta out. For me personally, the motivation comes from a good place. It's because you're thinking, this is, I want to try to cultivate more positive mental states. But can you see how that's sort of counterproductive? You can't sort of frog march yourself into feeling metta, or into being in touch with the sort of attitude of openness and metta. So let's give that a go. And then I'm going to sort of move on from there and talk on from there in the second half. But let's have a pretty decent length of sit just now. But that's what I'm going to be encouraging you to do, is imagine relaxing and opening into metta, like you're, rather than trying to, squeeze it out of the toothpaste tube. Okay, so setting yourselves up. Fine. And just taking a couple of moments just to really find your seat. You might want to just have a little tiny wriggle around, moving your head and shoulders, just to really find that sweet spot of balance and poise. If you do feel sleepy, you can just slightly open your eyes and let some of the candlelight in. And letting your awareness drop back and through you, seeping down through your being. Connecting yourself throughout your body. So we've got this broad awareness of the body. And as best you can, a simultaneous connection with the heart center. And just starting by tuning into what's going on there just now. Noticing your own emotional weather, your own emotional starting line tonight. And whatever that might be, good, bad, or ugly, seeing if you can lean back and just allow that to be there. I don't mean physically lean back, but sort of metaphorically imagining that you're opening up. Seeing if you can have a sense of softening that city tightness and defendedness. It's such a relief to just let go. And when we do that, we don't really, in the letting go, it's easier to be in contact with metta anyway. Don't have to do very much. So we're just going to keep letting go through the practice. As you bring whatever being it is in whichever stage into your heart. The Metta Bhavana. First stage, yourself. Can you let yourself relax and open towards yourself? And whenever you feel it getting too heady or too distracted, just relax and open again, over and over and over. And you let yourself relish the relief of just relaxing and opening towards yourself. You're not trying to do anything. You're not trying to be anybody. What a relief. Stage 2. We're inviting a good friend into your heart as you relax and open towards them. Just holding them in your heart and relaxing. Stage 3, a neutral person. Inviting them into your heart and just relaxing. Fourth stage, someone you find a bit difficult. Can you relax and open with them in your heart as best you can? They're just trying to be happy. And if you're finding it difficult, seeing if you can just relax into that. No point fighting it. Stage 5. Spreading the metta further and further. Which you can just do by relaxing more and more, letting your heart become bigger and bigger, as it were, so that you can include more and more people in it. Seeing if you can resist the urge to fidget and just relax into your posture. now just dropping any effort that you're making. Just sitting in open awareness, seeing if you can sit absolutely still for the last few moments. Completely still and completely open. Just gently in your own time, there's no rush, coming out of the practice if you wish to do so. We're going to go to a tea break just now. So for the people on YouTube, we'll be back probably about 8:35, 8:40, something like that. 8:35 we aim for. So let's keep the shrine space as a silent, quiet place in case anybody wants to stay quiet through the break. But there'll be tea in the other room, and do take the opportunity to maybe talk to someone and share a bit about how that meditation went for you. So we'll see you back in a bit. Seb, could you close the doors when you... Yeah, we could have it quiet in here.
question. Are there any like other weekend retreats like that we just did over the next sort of couple of months, or is it mainly 4 or 5 days? Kind of?
No, there's one at the end of October.
Okay.
Yeah. We normally have about one a month. One at the end of October because I'm leading that as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Where's Izzy? There she is. Hello. Sorry, I didn't realise see you, so I didn't acknowledge you as being here from our retreat. I just was like, oh, hang on a minute there. So, hello. Right. Okay. So we just need to make sure the YouTubers are with us. They're with us. Thank you very much, Leah. Hello, YouTube people. Welcome back. I hope you had a nice cup of tea or something. And for those who've come back into the room, if you can please, if you did have your phones on in the break, if you could just make sure you turn those off, that would be great. Okay. So, do sit comfortably because I'm going to say, am I going to do that? Yeah, I'm going to say something for a bit. Yeah. So sit comfortably, or if you want to sit on a chair while I'm talking, then feel free to do that. Okay, so I'm going to follow on a bit from what I was talking about before the break, which is this sense of relaxation and expansiveness in meditation. And I'm going to talk about a sort of, I suppose, different ways into that, or different ways that I'm currently kind of exploring, or that are quite live in my practice in terms of ways into that sense of expansiveness. And a big one for me at the moment, and has been for a while actually, is the relationship between beauty and metta. So, going back to the example that I gave in the first half when I was stepped out the car with the guys at the beginning, before we did our retreat, we stepped out into this spaciousness, and of course, lots of natural beauty all around. So we can find beauty in lots of places. I mean, it's sort of easy. I mean, that's one of the things about going on retreat, is that you find yourself in a beautiful place, which is sort of, so you're kind of halfway there before you've even done any meditation. So nature is an obvious one, and one that probably the one that I find the easiest to connect with. But also other things as well, like music, either playing it or listening to it. You can also find beauty in friendship, and in this sort of in altruistic behaviour that you might witness, or that you might yourself be doing. And of course, inspirational figures. Those could be inspirational figures in your own life, people that you know, or kind of out in the world, as it were. As a practicing Buddhist, obviously my most inspirational figure was the Buddha himself, the historical Buddha, and also various sorts of ways in which aspects of the enlightened mind are depicted. So if we look here, for instance, this is an image of the Buddha, but obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but the Buddha wasn't actually painted gold. And I don't know whether he had that sort of bit on top of his head. I doubt it. All of these things are symbolic, and it's a sense of the goldenness and the that creates a sense of beauty and abundance and richness. So, as a Buddhist, I also get inspiration from the beauty of some of the Buddhist iconography. That may or may not speak to you, but I'm just giving you those things as examples. And in fact, one of the ways that we often speak about is art as a way into beauty, and therefore into opening and expansiveness. Now, I have to confess, I'm not really that arty myself. I don't really. It's not my first way in. through beauty. Nature would be more my first way in, but actually, interestingly, today I did have an experience of art, the beauty of art opening me up in a different way. So, so I've just come back from this retreat, as I've mentioned a couple of times, and I'm sort of slightly embarrassed to say I've been in an absolutely foul mood ever since I got back, and I've been really, really angry at somebody. And I had the day off work today, and, I haven't had a day to myself for a while, and it was a beautiful day, and I wasted quite a lot of it having an argument with this person in my head and working out exactly how I was going to have the perfect argument with this person. And I was going to come out like I was going to get the last word, and it was going to be cool, and it was going to be sassy, and it was going to be smart and intelligent and cutting, and somehow also skillful as well. I don't quite know how I was going to manage all of that. But anyway, this was what was going on and on and on and on. And I was walking down the canal path, and I thought, oh God, I was just like, I sort of laughed at myself, because I thought, oh, isn't that ironic? Because I've got to go to the LBC tonight and talk about my personal perspective on the Metta Bhavana, and all I'm doing is ranting in my head, which is really not, not really the spirit of the Metta Bhavana. And there was an art exhibition on at the art pavilion down the canal. So for those of you that are local, I really recommend you go to it. It's actually an art exhibition by one of our own order members, Abhaya Vajra. And as I said, I don't really get a lot of art. It just doesn't quite speak to me. But I went in there today, and it's quite a big, spacious area, and it's on the, there's a sort of pond, and there's swans on it, and his art pieces, they're huge, they're sort of massive pieces. So you sort of, you've got that sense of spaciousness. And he was actually there himself, which I wasn't expecting, so that was nice. I had a little chat with him, and he's done these beautiful sort of big, I don't know much about art. I'd call it splodgy, but I think that's probably not the jargon. And but nice splodgy. Like I really liked it. And then as I left there to walk back, and thought, oh, I better get home. I've got to write this talk for tonight. And I really did notice. Actually, I noticed and thought, oh, there's something about that experience of that artwork, of the beauty of his work, and hearing him talk about his work as well, and hearing this sort of his connection with his work. There was something about that sort of expanded my mind, and I kind of realized that there was, it wasn't that I wasn't still cross with this person, but somehow I had a much better perspective on that, and I could see a way as to how I could actually try to communicate with this person, not from a place of trying to be the winner, but actually in a way that was going to be much more productive. So that was a real example for me today about how tuning into beauty opened me up so that I could sort of connect with metta, and therefore turn towards this person in my own mind with that attitude, rather than where I'd started out, which was this tight, clenched, closed down, me, I'm right, they're an idiot, etc. I mean, maybe none of you ever have those sorts of thoughts in your mind. Maybe it's just me, but I suspect that that's not the case. And the thing with beauty, I mean, there's the old cliche about beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And to a certain extent that's true. But of course, there are some things that it's easier to respond to as beautiful than others. And I think in this context, in terms of this idea of metta and beauty and the relationship between them, I think it's important to distinguish between beauty on the one hand and on the other hand what you might call sort of glamour or sexiness or stylishness on the other hand. Not that there's anything inherently evil about those things, but the beauty that I'm talking about is a beauty that where you're not sort of stimulated into craving something as a result of the experience, so that your experience of it expands your mind and sort of helps you to step beyond yourself, rather than diminishing your mind by making you want something, whether it's wanting a person or wanting to look like a particular person or dress like a particular person. So I think it's important to kind of just be a bit wary, because there's a lot of incredibly stylish and sexy and glamorous imagery out there in our world now, and just notice for yourself what mental states is that stimulating for you, and is it a kind of open and expansive state, or is it a kind of like a craving kind of a mental state. So we are talking here about things, I'm talking about things like nature, art, music, beautiful friendship, those sorts of things that are, in a funny sort of way, they're things that you can't, largely speaking, they're things that you can't grab at and try and appropriate. If you're there, like I stepped out that car at Vidrasana, and the wind was in the trees and the clouds were scudding over the sky, and there was this huge sense of spaciousness. That wasn't mine. Like I didn't look at that landscape and instantly think, oh, I want to have that and take that home with me. It just doesn't apply. When you look at a beautiful sunset, you don't think that's beautiful, I want to have it. You just think that's beautiful, or maybe you don't even think that's beautiful, you just respond to it. So that's the sort of flavour of experience that I'm talking about. And so, what I'm suggesting to you, or what I'm sort of proposing to you tonight in terms of something I'm going to be inviting you to explore in your own experience when we do the practice in a moment, is I'm suggesting that if you look, that beauty and metta are sort of feed into each other. So if you are in touch with beauty, you will be more in touch with metta. Similarly, if you're in touch with metta, you're going to see things as more beautiful. So it's a bit like the eyes of metta and the eyes of beauty are sort of the same thing, or if not the same thing, they feed into each other. So a sort of example of this is like, if you've ever been in love, certainly at times when I've been in love, I look around the world and I'm like, oh, the world's so beautiful, oh, because there's something about my feelings towards that person that sort of spills out onto the world. Now you could say in a way that's not really metta, because that's a sort of romantic yearning love. But there's still something of that flavour. There's something of that flavour of how love can open us, and beauty can open us. Do I want to say anything more? So in a way, just finish perhaps by saying that if we can find a way into that feedback loop, so if we can find our eyes of metta or find our eyes of beauty, then we will, that becomes like a positive feedback loop. So my sort of one of my most poignant examples of this is when my little sister was dying. She became, was given all kinds of medications, so she became actually quite sort of grotesque in a way from an objective point of view, because all of these medications made her get really swollen and her face was all misshapen, and what was interesting to me is I about a few months after she died, I came across a photo of her. Probably was the last photo ever taken of her. And I was shocked when I looked at this photo, and I was like, oh my God, she looks terrible. And then I was really struck with the fact whilst she'd been dying, all I could see was how beautiful she was. She was just utterly beautiful to me, and my heart was utterly open. And interestingly, like later on down the line, when I wasn't in the absolute moment of that experience, I could see that objectively, she was an attractive young woman before she was ill, and she looked terrible before she died, objectively speaking. But because I was looking at her through these eyes of love, she looked beautiful to me. So, and that's really sort of stuck with me, that when I can contact those eyes of love, and ideally, of course, we're talking about unconditional metta, not love just because she was my sister, but something more unconditional than that. When we can contact that, eyes of metta, we can be, we can be open. We can be so much more open. So, beauty and metta feeding into each other. Okay. So we have got a few minutes if anybody wants to ask any questions. I'm going to lead us, we're going to finish, I'm going to lead us in a metta bhavana with trying to come at it from this angle of eyes of beauty. So I've talked for too long as ever, but we do have a couple of minutes if anybody's got any burning questions from what, either from the first half or from what I've just said. James, yeah.
Yeah, what you're just saying about your sister did just sort of remind me of an experience I've definitely had, and probably other people have as well. Like when you first meet a person, and you'll see their appearance, and you're kind of like, yeah, but they're pretty, very good-looking person. They're not like the most gorgeous person I've ever seen or whatever, very good-looking person. Then you get to know them, and you find like, oh, this is a really amazing person. You start to like love that person, and that love of them as a person, that love of their personality, starts to see how you see them as a physical person as well. Like their outward appearance becomes more beautiful because you know what's inside of the person, if you see what I mean.
Yes, thank you, James. Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, the more fully we can see another human being, the more beautiful they can become. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Time for one more question or comment, or is there anyone on YouTube got a question or comment, Claudio? No. Yep, Leia.
Do you think we should avoid things that are like glamorous, or like what you were saying about how would you advise avoiding those things?
Do I think you should avoid things that are glamorous?
Well, I mean, you can't do it in London, but I mean.
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting question. I'm very loath to advise people what they should do. What the Buddha always said was, don't take my word for it, don't do what I say, test it out in your own experience, and you make up your mind. So my suggestion would be is, you notice for yourself what effect looking at those magazines has on your mind. Does it lead to more expansiveness and a sense of contentment and a sense of interconnectedness and a sense of positive self-regard? For those on YouTube, they can't see that Leah is pulling a face and shaking her head. But I'm just so I'm inviting you in a way. I've kind of put this proposal forward and proposed a certain sort of way of defining beauty, if you like, a beauty that's about expansiveness rather than about. Anyway, I've said it already. You know what I mean. So I'd say look at it in your own experience and see what effect it has. Because it's also quite tricky, because something that somebody might look at and might not be helpful to them and might cause them to close down in some way or feel cravey might be a different effect on somebody else. So I think it's very hard to be sort of rigid about those sorts of things. Okay. All right. Okay, so I think let's try it. Okay? And if anyone's got any other thoughts or questions, do come and feel free at the end to come and say. So I'm going to lead us in at the beginning. Yeah. I think that's enough for me. Right. So yeah, setting yourself up. Closing your eyes and tuning into what's going on for you just now. So seeing where you're starting from right now with this practice. Noticing your body. The emotional weather. And the quality and nature of your thoughts. And seeing if you can relax and open, as we were exploring in the first half. Can you tune in again to that sense of relaxation and expansiveness? That metaphorical lying back on the deck chair. Opening yourself to the warmth of metta. And I'm going to invite you to bring to mind a recent experience of beauty in your own life. Something that you can kind of feel quite vividly in touch with, so probably something quite recent. And just letting yourself really dwell in that experience internally. Making it as vivid as you can. Noticing the effect that it has. And seeing if you can just keep opening to that beauty throughout the practice. The Metta Bhavana. relaxing, opening. In touch with beauty. Bringing your good friend into your heart. And now just dropping any effort that you're making. Just completely relaxing, staying absolutely still and completely open. And so I invite you this week to see if you can open into any experiences of beauty that you have. See if you can relax and open into them, and see what effect that has. Okay, so I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this evening. But very much hope to see you all next week. We're starting a new series next week. We're going to be exploring the 5 spiritual faculties and their relationship to meditation. So do come along, and I think that probably takes us all the way up to Christmas, roughly. Anyway, that series. So I hope you'll come and join us for that. And just finally, just to finish with, I suppose it fits in a way with this theme of beauty and the beautiful, because what we try to do here at the centre as much as we can is to make our centre open and freely available to as many people as possible, in person and on YouTube. And in order to do that, we rely on generosity. All of us teach. We don't get paid to teach. We teach because we believe that the Buddha's teachings are precious and that there's something to be offered to the world. If you feel that way and you find it valuable and you are in a position to be able to donate some money to us this evening for the class that we've had, that would be absolutely fantastic. There'll be people at the door who'll be very happy to take your money on behalf of the centre, obviously. Yeah, that will just help us to continue to run things into the future. And if you're not able to donate or you don't want to, that's absolutely fine. Everybody's welcome to be here. But if you wish to join in with that spirit of generosity, that would be most welcome. And I think the YouTubers, Claudio's probably put a link just now onto YouTube. If you're able to give us a donation, that would be great. But that's all we have time for this evening. Thank you very much for coming along. And I'll be outside at the door if anybody's got any questions or anything that they'd like to ask. Do come and say hello. And that's it. Go well and be beautiful. Yes, and if you could put your cushions and mats to the sides, if you could.